Hey, just a quick update again on how I'm getting on. So really last week or so I haven't actually done a great deal. Sun's been shining, busy at work, just lots of other stuff going on. Not got a great deal done on the EV. Main reason really being is I'm actually still waiting for the copper connectors to come for the battery system. So just down there, these battery connectors. Wanted to use the ones out of the Leaf, found some, which is great, but they unfortunately went missing in the post. So the post said they'd been delivered, but unfortunately, no, they hadn't been delivered. So getting some more sent out, and they should be with me tomorrow. But really kind of waiting to get the battery pack done, because then I've got that now hooked up to the motor or the inverter. So once I've got the full power, I can test that my relay switches work and the pre-charge works. So I can check that I can power up the inverter, start trying to communicate with the inverter. Once I've got the full pack working as well, I can check the damage to the BMS, because once I've got the whole pack going, I can see where I'm at. So it kind of all hinges really on getting those copper connectors. Fingers crossed to get them tomorrow, and can make a bit more progress on that. One thing I have done actually over here, which I can show, is I've 3D printed a cable management system. So you can see it goes down there, and all of these are going to be the battery management wires connecting up the batteries. And I've got the coaxial cable, RJ45 cable there, just all rolled up at the moment. So the way that works is I've got a dummy one I've printed out here. This is, imagine this is the top of the BMS I just showed. That's just hooks on there, and it'll go all the way down with the wires spanning out either side, all nice and neat, so I don't have this cabbage of wires everywhere. And so that's going to be nice and neat. So you can see it's already quite neat in the middle, and all these cables, once they're all plugged in, that'll all be nice and tidy. Still got all the stuff down here, it's kind of as it was last video, to be honest. All the pre-charge. I've got my 12 volt get the camera on that, 12 volt switch here, or sorry, 12 volt timer. Good thing about these 12 volt timers actually is they don't just switch on 12 volts when the time is up. It actually switches over. So actually I can use the 12 volt output on the pre-charge when it turns on. When the timer finishes, it will switch off the pre-charge and switch on the relay, the full relay. So that's good. I can use that to pretty good effect there. I guess the only other thing to mention, a little bit of a thing I'm going to make sure I do, I don't think it really matters too much, but the input and output of each one of these contactors I'm going to keep the same as in the battery when it was in the Leaf. So this is the input of the negative, and that's the output, and so on here. Here's the input of the positive and negative, and the output of the positive. I actually had it all round the other way to begin with, and it doesn't really matter, but I realised silly things like this fuse here. If I have it wired the wrong way round, it was permanently live, because obviously it was on the other side of the connector, and this output here was permanently live. So I kind of thought, well, I should do it right. I don't know whether the pre-charge fuse only likes current going one way, so just to make sure I don't have any problems, I've switched it round and I'm doing it all the way it was wired in the Leaf. I think that makes sense and it's a sensible solution. Little other things I've noted as well, actually, I've got a couple of wires here going into this connector, and also the main HD lead coming out of the pack as well has two wires going to it. Now the main HD lead, if I come over here on the charger, main HD lead, the other end, only has two big chunky cables coming out. There is nothing that these two wires connect to, so I can only assume that these two wires are, there's two tiny little thin connectors in there, and it must just be simply as detecting if the cable's plugged in or not. Now I'm unlikely to be using this, I'm unlikely to be using this, but it might mean the BMS, which is over there in pieces, throws a bit of a hissy fit or doesn't work if it doesn't think the cables are plugged in. So it may be that I just almost need to short these cables together to fool it to believing that everything is connected correctly. So a little bit of discovery to do there still as well. And I can get the motor, well, the motor's already wired up here, or the inverter. I'm desperate to see if I can get that spinning. Just if I look over here, I've taken the input, or one of the cables, out of the side of the inverter and found a pin out for that online, and it all looks pretty understood, to be honest. So I've got a good pin out for that, nothing left. I think the biggest query I've got on that side of things is the output here, which goes, is that the right output, or is it on the other side? Where's it gone? Oh, there it is, there. So this output here, which plugs into the charger. I mean, at the moment, I'm going to be using the inverter and the BMS separately. And it could be that maybe I'm going to be using the charger separately and I can just give it the right commands. It'd be quite nice if I could plug this into the charger and have it doing what it needs to do correctly from its own connector, but probably not, to be fair. Got all my other blanking plates for the battery. When I get the copper plates to finish that off, I can protect them with these. Just kind of waiting. So that's going to do me for today. Subscribe. Want to get this a bit more progress, I'll update again in a week's time, and we'll see how we're getting on. Cheers.